Okay, the settings seem to be good. Welcome back to World War Live, everybody. I'm your host, Conrad Franz, joined by no one. It's just me, of course, here on this Tuesday evening. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat, if there are any issues. I believe I have the settings all laid out correctly and all of that. So it's good to see everybody in the chat. We've got Porphyry Allen in the chat, of course, E-War Mapping, Yarn Chicken, some very familiar faces. So thank you everybody for tuning in here. This is going to be the last stream of 2025. I know a lot of people are busy with family and doing all sorts of things. So I don't know how busy this stream is going to be, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for confirming you can hear me in the chat. I apologize for my weirdly chapped and red lips. I have just, as of today, gotten back from Colorado. Attempted to do a little bit of skiing, did a tiny bit, but the snow was so terrible that almost none was able to go down. So we're back in Texas, here in the World War Now bunker, as it were. So it's good to be back here with all of you. We're going to be doing a bit of content review. A lot of things have happened since Dimitri and I even recorded World War Now, which should be being released tomorrow. So be sure to subscribe at worldwarnow.co. We're going to show that right here. Share this tab instead. Let's not show my own live stream on the live stream. It will incept me out. But here we go. Be sure to subscribe to the World War Now Telegram. I mean the World War Now Substack. What am I saying? worldwarnow.co. You get access to all of our content. You can see our latest Ether Hour episode all about Venezuela, where we correctly predicted, the kinetic strikes against that Trump has reported from the CIA here with our good friend Jose Nino. That's episode 100 of Ether Hour. So if you get behind the paywall here at worldwarnow.co, which of course is in the link down in the description, you get access to all of this incredible content. You get the free World War Now weekly episodes right in your inbox right when they drop, and you get access to the full Ether Hour suite behind the paywall, hours and hours and hours of content. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And yes, everyone, Merry Christmas. Obviously, it's been 5 days since the celebration of the incarnation of Christ in the new calendar in the West here, I guess, as you could say. But on the old calendar for you Russians and Serbs and Georgians and others out there, Merry Christmas. The fast is still going, so be sure to stay strong. Do not falter. I know everyone on the new calendar is enjoying all of their meat. I know I sure am, but stay strong. The Christmas season is still here, and of course we are approaching the new year on the secular calendar. So everybody, I hope, is enjoying time with their family. But yeah, I want to thank everyone again for tuning in. We have $20.25 here from Porphyry, our good mod, keeping things civil in the chat. Chud Care Remittance Funds. Thank you, my friend. It was appreciated. The Chud Fund just got a little bit taller, so we are doing everything we can. Obviously, in the future, hopefully, it'll be much better background, much nicer studio. Man, my lips are so red. It looks terrible. I need some chapstick or something. But I'm also wearing the hat because my hair is all over the place, so no one will get to see that. But yeah, we're going to be playing some ethno guesser obviously later on in the stream. We're going to be reacting to some news because some major developments have happened even since Dimitri and I recorded World War Now, which should be released tomorrow if I am calculating that correctly. But with all of that, I think it's time I tell you about this article that just came out on orthochristian.com. I didn't even realize it had dropped until right before this stream. And of course, I have to remind everybody, if you want to ask a question that does get answered in the stream on live, guaranteed, send a super chat on YouTube where you are watching this. And much like I just read Alan's super chat, I will read yours. I will answer your question in depth if it is something that warrants an in-depth answer. So thank you so much again for everybody tuning in. Super chatting is another way to support the show besides getting behind the paywall at worldwarnow.co. But here we have, I got to change the share format. Boom. Newest part 2 of my interview with Mother Cornelia Reese on orthochristian.com. So this is about my trip to Moldova, my time there where I spoke to many of the people in this picture, many bishops, priests, other figures that are being persecuted by the government of Moldova there as they attempt to integrate into the European Union, as they attempt to completely de-Russify and in many ways de-Christianize their country. So be sure to check this one out. I can actually drop the link in the chat right now because this one is pretty good stuff. I want to thank again Mother Cornelia for doing the interview with me and putting me on one of my most favorite websites. It was a real honor. Of course, if you haven't read part 1, that's right here. where I discuss sort of my journey to Orthodoxy, my life, how I got into doing what I'm doing. There's me at Sretensky Monastery with the big St. Herman of Alaska icon, which seemed appropriate as an American Orthodox convert. You've got a lot of, you want to learn about me, you want to learn my story, be sure to check this out. So, yeah, big things happening on the Ortho web. But I want to thank everyone tuning in on Substack. I should probably try to pull that chat up on my phone, but usually for some reason the Substack app doesn't allow me to watch the stream. Maybe I'll have to do it on the browser so I can say hello to everybody who is watching on Substack. Let's see if we can pull that up right now. Nope, it's not letting me watch the live video on my phone for some reason. So, alas, I don't think, unless I check over here. Anybody in Substack chat? Hope everyone is doing well. If you're watching on Substack, say hello. I know we've got a few people watching over there. I know it's not as integrated with the streaming software, but check out this article on Ortho Christian. It's all about my time in Moldova, some very interesting stories from priests and people there that have been persecuted. We've got Ewar Mappin asking some questions about the things that we are about to dive into here on the show. So might as well, let's just start there, right? People go where we want to go, where the audience goes. So we've got $5 from eWar Mapping, loyal audience member. Do you think the attack on Putin's house is real? Rera Navarum said that the people living there heard no air defense and the West is contesting it. Well, let's get right into it. For anybody that doesn't know already, we're going to share the tab here from Anti-War to get the details for everybody. Boom. And I will now take a sip of water from my new World War Now water bottle. World War Now water bottle, World War Now sweatshirt, World War Now hat. And I realize I'm a fool for wearing all of this without making this available. So my New Year's resolution is by the end of January, I will have something akin to a merchandise store available for all of you so that you can LARP and put on your wacky hats and clothes with me on the stream, and we can be in our gay little uniforms together here live, sipping from World War Now water bottles, wearing World War Now hats and stuff, which again, I'm really only wearing this hat because my hair looked absolutely terrible as I was about to go live. So keep that in mind. Maybe we should sell the water bottles at inflated prices. Well, we'll have to. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go the effort to get these made in America, most likely, so I can sell them for cheaper. But if people start demanding things like that, then we'll have to make the price go up. But to address E-War Mapping's question, we're going to go through the details, and I'm going to give my thoughts on this news about the supposed drone attack on Vladimir Putin's residence. It says Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Monday that Ukrainian forces fired 91 kamikaze drones at President Vladimir Putin's residence in Russia's Novgorod region and warned that the attack would change Moscow's negotiating position. For his part, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denied that his forces launched the attack. Lavrov said the Russian air defenses intercepted all of the Ukrainian drones, but warned Moscow would respond, saying that targets for retaliatory strikes have already been determined. Such reckless actions will not go unanswered, Lavrov said. According to Yuri Ushakov, an aide to Putin, President Trump spoke with the Russian leader by phone on Monday and said he was shocked by the attack. The U.S. president, according to Putin, was shocked by this news and expressed outrage, stating that he could not have imagined such crazy actions on the part of Kiev. Zelensky called the accusations that his forces targeted Putin's residence another lie that will likely be used to justify more strikes on Ukraine. With this statement about an alleged attack on some residents, they are preparing the ground to strike, most likely the capital and government buildings, he said. Ukrainian forces have previously targeted the Kremlin with drones, and Ukrainian intelligence officials have threatened to target Putin for assassination. Zelensky suggested Russia's accusation was related to his talks with Trump on Sunday. It's obvious that yesterday we had a meeting with President Trump, and it's clear that when there is no scandal for the Russians, when there is progress, it is a failure for them. They do not want to end this war and are only capable of doing so under pressure. So they are looking for a pretext, he said. Trump said after the talks that the issue of territory is still unresolved, as Zelensky refuses to cede the rest of the Donbass, a key Russian demand. The U.S. and Ukraine have agreed on NATO-style security guarantees for Ukraine that will almost certainly be rejected by Russia. So, my thoughts on all of this. Obviously, you mentioned E-War Mapping, the reports from the people that live in Novgorod in that region that they claim not to have heard this. I'm surprised that those people are just so willing to say, like, yeah, I didn't realize that was the thing in Russia. We know Putin lives here and we live next to him, but I'm no expert on Putin's residence or really Putin at all. If we're getting into it, I'm a World War III analyst. But I think, unfortunately, the Ukrainians are going to have a hard time claiming this is like some ridiculous out of the blue accusation, because I believe it was his Christmas message. I believe that Zelensky effectively wished for the death of Vladimir Putin for Christmas. That's what he said he wanted for Christmas. So if that's what he wanted for Christmas, why wouldn't the Ukrainian military have been trying to give him what he wanted? I mean, maybe, I get that we're approaching old calendar Christmas and it's a little bit too late because the Ukrainians have very much embraced the new calendar and Western dating and these other sorts of things. But again, I don't think it's out of the question at all. I have no reason to believe why we would even have press reports of people around Putin's house right now that would be speaking to press or anything like that. So I'm sure that's just Ukrainian sort of disinformation about those. I mean, again, that could be the information and that could be accurate in the sense that people might think that might have been what is true. But I have a high skeptical. I'm highly skeptical of these posts. Sorry, I've been up since 5 a.m. traveling back to Austin, so I'm a little bit tired. But I think the reality of the situation is this is something they easily could have done, because if it was a real effort, like if they actually thought they could succeed, I mean, it would change the game entirely for Ukraine. In both situations, if the president of these countries is assassinated, a large amount of chaos would ensue, and things would, as far as the negotiations and the war goes, with the other side would obviously be a great beneficiary of this in a war context. So again, this was something that happened after Dimitri and I recorded World War Now this week. So I don't know if we'll record a brief segment about it and have it spliced into an already extremely long 2.5-hour episode that we recorded this week, but we will find out and see. I do believe that the Russians are going to respond and escalate. I don't know what they're going to do. I highly doubt they're going to assassinate Zelensky. I highly doubt they're going to. I'm trying to think of who they could assassinate. Maybe members of the Ukrainian military, high-ranking officials. But I think they will definitely escalate the strikes on Kiev, and we could potentially see some strikes on the Rada or near Zelensky's residence or presidential offices and such. I think that wouldn't be something that is surprising. And someone is talking about how they think that there were electronic warfare things used to down the drone silently. I don't know if the Lavrov report spoke about air defense, but if he did, who knows if he was just speaking sort of generally. But I think that is that's generally, we don't know too much about it right now. The Russians are obviously not going to let huge amount of details about Putin's residence and these other sorts of things leak and be discussed publicly. But I think this is obviously going to mark an escalation. And clearly Trump, I don't know if this was some kind of orchestrated media kayfabe, but Trump clearly was willing to take Putin at his word and is probably going to, in some capacity, allow Russia to do what it needs to do, which we cannot say the same for Iran. Well, I guess we can say the same for Israel, but we can't say the same with this idea that Iran might launch a preemptive strike. Trump is very much still Israel's attack dog, which is what we have to talk about here. We're going to talk about some of these stories, some of the breaking stuff, and then I might reflect a little bit on 2025 before we'll browse Twitter a little bit, reflect on 2025 and everything that went down regarding World War III that year. And then we will hop into some ethno-guesser. Be sure to send a super chat if you want me to answer a question or discuss a specific news story or something like that. Back into antiwar.com. Trump says he'll support an Israeli attack on Iran if Tehran continues its missile program. So we've gone from Trump using brinksmanship to try to get Iran to agree to uranium enrichment outside of Iran. They didn't. They tried to squeeze. The U.S. and Israel tried to squeeze. It didn't happen. Trump claims we were forced to do these strikes that in theory didn't kill anybody and just destroyed their nuclear capabilities. Okay, Trump's hand was forced. He's still America first, right? He's anti-war. We're not launching an operation. Limited strikes, just showing our military might, making sure no new things enter into the world power, no nuclear power. This is nuclear. This is preventing nuclear proliferation. This is an important operation, but here we are, 6 months after the 12-day war and almost 6 months after our strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities. And what is Trump saying? President Trump said on Monday that he would support an Israeli attack on Iran if Tehran continues its conventional missile program, or if it works to rebuild its civilian nuclear program that was damaged by U.S. airstrikes during the U.S.-Israeli war on the Islamic Republic in June. So again, We bombed them. We support Israel's 12-day war under the pretext that they are days away from a nuclear weapon. We supposedly prevent that. But you scratch that, and of course, under the surface, we are explicitly doing this. We are preventing them from having any civilian nuclear capabilities. And the conventional missile program that they have had for decades at this point is now apparently a justification for an extended war against them. So this whole time has just been preparations for war by Israel, preparation of civil society by Israel, preparation of Israeli intelligence to prepare when they are fully ready to launch this war. This has all been up happening under their time frame. The president made the comments at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida before a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when asked if he would back more Israeli attacks on Iran. If they continue with the missiles, yes. The nuclear, fast, he said. So if they get intelligence, basically if Israel tells them that they're working on nukes, we'll launch them today. And if they don't stop the missile production and the capabilities and maintaining the capabilities and replenishing what they lost in the 12-day war in conventional missiles, we'll attack them next week. So that's basically what we're working with here. One will be yes, absolutely, he added, appearing to reference Iran's missiles. The other was we'll do it immediately, he said, referencing the possibility of Iran rebuilding its nuclear program. The president also threatened to knock the hell out of Iran if it builds up again. And here's the picture of Puppet Master and Puppet right there at the Southern White House in Florida, Palm Beach, Florida, Southern Jewish capital of America. According to media reports, Netanyahu was expected to ask Trump to support a new war against Iran over concerns related to its ballistic missiles. Iranian officials have been clear that they won't agree to a deal to curb Tehran's missile program, since it's the only deterrent the country has against the U.S. and Israel. After the meeting, Trump and Netanyahu held a joint press conference where the U.S. president again expressed support for the idea of another attack on Iran, though he suggested it wasn't confirmed that Tehran was building up again. Any Israeli strikes on Iran would require U.S. support, since the U.S. military played a major role in intercepting Iranian missiles fired at Israel. They made it through U.S. and Israeli air defenses, which is ultimately what led Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire after 12 days. The U.S. also supported Israel's attacks by refueling Israeli aircraft and then launched its own airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. Amid the threats of another U.S. and Israeli attack, Iran has warned that it's ready to respond. According to Iran's press TV, the general staff of the Iranian armed forces warned in a statement on Monday that any renewed hostile act against the country will be met with a far harsher, more crushing, and more damaging response than in the past. So there have even been rumors, as I've mentioned before, of a preemptive Iranian strike on Israel because they realize that if the U.S. already approves, if Israel's working it like this publicly, that they could any moment actually do the strike, have everything worked out, behind the scenes last minute. So this is, I believe, January, February 2026 are really going to tell the tale. These 4 months here between November and February, I think that was my general prediction for when we would see these escalations with Iran again. So I think we're still generally on that time frame. And I think this is going to coincide with escalations in Lebanon. I'm trying to see here. There's an anti-war. Obviously, there's this, but Israel is expanding their bases in southern Lebanon. But yeah, we'll read this too. But be sure, again, send in a super chat if you want any specific questions to be asked. Again, we've already discussed it so much. So looking back onto 2025, of course, the biggest individual event of 2025 was the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, and the United States strikes on the Iranian bases in Fordo, Isfahan, and wherever the third one is, and that Natanz. And that was, again, thousands dead. We still have no full details. I think we know even less about the Iranian strikes on Israel and their targets than we do about the Israeli strikes on Iran. The major depletion of their nuclear scientists, the complete elimination of their top military brass, basically them and all of their military political leaders and the IRGC and these other things were wiped out, with the exception of, the president and the supreme leader himself, the heads of the Navy, the heads of the Army, the heads of the IRGC, the heads of intelligence, all these sorts of things, heads of nuclear science were all completely destroyed in the operation. And of course, it makes sense that was 6 months ago. Now going into 2026, the main story that us here at World War Now are going to be covering is this renewed escalation between Israel and Iran, because we believe this is going to be the one that brings in everybody else. We believe that this is going to be the one that potentially, when it is entered into, Israel will have already taken care of, or at least have a plan for the Turkish question or the Turkish problem that they have identified. in our episode of World War Now that's coming out, you can be sure we discuss the impending Erdogan visit to Tehran. We discuss the Lebanese situation, which we're going to read the article about here that we'll dive into. But yeah, I believe that, again, Russia is clearly about to start winning even harder in Ukraine now that the U.S., I think, is taking some of this, Russian justification that they are ginning up regarding these strikes. That is the future, I think, of that conflict, and I think that will lead to the West and Israel, the West in many ways wanting to take out Erdogan and get Turkey as a solid ally against Russia, with Israel wanting to do the same and get Turkey and Erdogan out as a solid ally against Iran. And I think that might even be what happens on a longer time frame if that doesn't happen sooner in 2026. It will happen, I think, in 2028 if the Democrats in America, for example, take power. Trump is very close with Erdogan. So if a Democrat takes power, they would perhaps see to support the opposition to Erdogan. Even if Netanyahu somehow finds himself out of power, the left wing in Israel would be just as willing to support, obviously, the opposition as Israel. Everybody in Israel is against Erdogan at this point. So despite the fact that Trump, people say that, oh, Trump, he's not owned by Israel. He's just doing all this stuff. He obviously is completely owned by Israel. The only real place that I can actually consider where Trump breaks from Israel is being friends with Erdogan. Trump still supports Turkish troops on the ground in Gaza. He said that at that meeting. I don't know how Netanyahu felt about that, but clearly that's everything else they agree. Bombing Iran, expanding into the West. I mean, Trump said he hopes Netanyahu does the right thing in the West Bank, which strategic ambiguities. Trump can say he meant anything by that. Obviously, Miriam Adelson gave Trump $150 million in the 2024 election cycle for the purpose of allowing Netanyahu to annex the West Bank. So if Trump says the right thing, that might mean completely annex it. So that might be what we saw admitted there. He also talked about, the Lebanese ceasefire Trump held. Trump didn't yell at Netanyahu. Trump didn't even bring it up that the Lebanon ceasefire that he supposedly helped broker has never been honored by Israel. So all of that, he's completely willing to go on. The only thing he seems to break on is this love for Erdogan and desire to maybe have Turkish troops in Gaza, I guess, because, Turkey, NATO member, the U.S. feels that Turkey is the closest Islamic country, maybe to the Western world. They want to see them there. Trump, I think, has business interests probably tied up with Turkish businessmen and Turkish government officials, much like many other New York and New Jersey politicians. Of course, Bob Menendez, senator, is now in jail for accepting a lot of money. We, of course, have Eric Adams, no longer mayor of New York City, who was very much involved in the Turkish and Egyptian scene, getting bars of gold, plane tickets and whatnot. And in my opinion, Trump is clearly of the same vein. I think Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Trump has extensive business, semi-criminal interests probably tied up in all of these countries and with all of these Islamic monarchs and sheikhs and all of these leaders and whatnot. So I think that's what's really going on there. But we're going to discuss Lebanon here. Temporary Israeli bases in southern Lebanon continue to expand amid talk of new war. Israeli officials seemingly everywhere and always are talking about new wars against the various nations they're already effectively at war with. In the case of Lebanon, though, officials have been calling a new war inevitable, and the situation on the ground suggests Israel is advancing in that position. Satellite imagery is showing that the 5 temporary bases Israel constructed within Lebanese territory have been expanding and fortifying. This suggests there's an intention to put these bases to further use, or at the very least an expectation that Israel is going to escalate the situation on the ground until those bases become targets for retaliation. Israel scrambled to build those 5 hilltop sites after the ceasefire was reached in November 2024. Though the ceasefire terms required Israel to withdraw from Lebanese territory, they ultimately announced that they will keep troops at the hilltop sites temporarily. And you can see on this map, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 sites that Israel still occupies with soldiers in southern Lebanon, well across the border. I believe this is roughly along the line that they're building in one of these areas. I think it's over here, that fence, a full kilometer in, where they're effectively just annexing a large swath of hectares and acres of southern Lebanese territory. Those sites overlook border areas, and as often the case of the border towns and villages heavily damaged by the last Israeli invasion, become targets for Israeli troops today, both from across the border and from the hilltop sites within Lebanon. The temporary sites seem increasingly a permanent aspect in southern Lebanon, just another angle from which Israel can and will attack. Though there's talk about the Israeli escalations drawing concern from the U.S. Former Israeli Ambassador Michael Oren says he doesn't believe there's substantial room for disagreement on the issue of Lebanon, and that the U.S. would understand if Israel invaded to disarm Hezbollah totally. That is a stark contrast to U.S. envoy Tom Barak's statement earlier this month, which is that he doesn't believe Israel is even capable of destroying Hezbollah militarily, and that a diplomatic solution would be preferable. Barak's stance on Lebanon varies wildly at any given time, however, so it's not clear if he would strongly object to a new Israeli invasion or not. While Hezbollah appears to have removed themselves from south of the Litani River as the ceasefire required, they remain opposed to the idea of being fully disarmed nationwide, saying they don't believe such a disarmament is in Lebanon's national interest. The argument against disarming Hezbollah is that they've historically served as the primary resistance to Israeli invasions and occupations, and while the Lebanese army is being expanded, they're not really being expanded in a way to defend the nation, so much as expanded to confront Hezbollah internally. While narratively the Lebanese government still says disarming Hezbollah is the goal, the army is reportedly hesitant to try to disarm north of the Litani River, and is suggesting that they want some positive signs Israel's becoming less of a threat in the south before they do that. Effectively, what they want is for Israel to remove itself from southern Lebanon, specifically those 5 bases, before they move on with disarming Hezbollah elsewhere in the country. Israel, however, seems unlikely to even consider this, as they have been actively expanding those bases. And I believe Israel wants to annex the territory south of the Litani River when all is said and done. So obviously, we discussed this in the upcoming World War Now episode, but Naim Qassem, the head of Hezbollah, has openly said that they will not disarm and that they are prepared to confront Israel. The Iranians, the Ayatollah Abbas Araghchi, they have said that if Israel waged war against Hezbollah, then Iran will enter the fray. So between all of this, combined with what we just read about the missile systems in Iran and Trump giving the green light basically for Israel to strike, if Israel does go, it's going to be a double-headed attack. They're going to attack Hezbollah and Iran at once. I don't know if they've got another pager-like attack up their sleeve, or if it's just going to be a full all-out missile assault, if Israel's going to invade Lebanon on the ground. Who knows? But I think those are going to have to be a double-headed sword assault, and I believe that that is such a, that's such a big operation that leaves room for, in the next 2 months, we could see a preemptive Iranian strike, which again, if I were the Iranians, I would be seriously considering. Obviously, I think there's a lot of strategic thought process that has to go into that. Again, if you don't do it almost exactly right, you immediately awake the ire of someone like Trump and the Jewish American media conglomerate, which will just run with it. Like, the genocidal Nazi Iranians have committed another Holocaust. They launched their evil Hitler missiles across the sky in such an anti-Semitic way, and they killed 40 billion babies with this one strike, and it would just be over. It would be total war against Iran. The Russians would get involved. I mean, the world would descend on Iran, and we would kill them, and it would be so. The Jewish world would be rejoicing, and the liberals would be rejoicing, and the conservatives would be rejoicing, and it would be a whole thing. But, if they play it correctly, they could play it in a way where Trump sees that there's just no way that this tit-for-tat big thing goes on without him getting involved in a protracted conflict, and he is forced in some capacity to, again, I'm even presupposing a world that this is even possible, but he somehow forces Israel to the negotiating table, potentially removes his support for the Netanyahu pardon from Herzog, hands him over politically to the wolves in Israel, and allows things to settle down, which I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's an option. I don't think that's likely. And even if it did happen, it's not like the Israeli opposition wouldn't be pursuing regime change in Iran anyway. So I think that is what we can look forward to when it comes to the situation there. And again, we've got almost 200 people watching here across all platforms, so be sure to send in a super chat on the YouTube if you want a question answered. I am keeping an eye on the Telegram. We've got one more Maduro Venezuela story we want to get into. But yeah, 2025, I mean, again, it's been 3 years of World War Now. This has been a huge show. It's been a huge development. It's been a pleasure being able to do this full time as my job for you guys. So thank you very much. Hey, we got Michael Cisco in chat. He said, where's the gnome hat? The gnome hat is just off screen, but it's kind of warm in here. I've got to mess with the AC settings a little bit. It's warmer than I normally have it, so I didn't want to wear my wool gnome hat and get all sweaty on stream, because I already like wearing the sweater in winter time. But the gnome hat, it's real wool, so be aware of that. Hey, we got Paisios in chat. Paisios of EO, our good buddy. Everyone be sure to pray for Paisios, as I know he is praying for us as he resides out in the noetic realm, praying and doing what he has to do. But thank you everybody for joining. Again, not seeing any super chats, so be sure to, if anyone has questions, I'm ready to go on all sorts of diatribes. But I guess we should dive into what I guess makes sense as the other real relevant front in the Third World War. We talked about Russia, Ukraine. We talked about Iran, Israel, Lebanon. Now we've got Venezuela. So again, before I even read this, I want to encourage everybody. Hey, check in. Hey, we got we got Romanos in chat. We got all sorts of people on here. So hello to everybody watching on Substack. The sound always turns back on. But before I read the article about Venezuela, I want to encourage everybody to listen to episode 100 of Ether Hour with Jose Nino. He is Venezuelan. He's big on Substack. He has a lot to say and a lot of knowledge about the political situation in Venezuela, the military situation in Venezuela, what will actually happen when Maduro, who is likely to be driven from power, as we discuss, what is actually likely to happen, as opposed to what Israel and the U.S. want to happen, which is we got to install Maria Machado and the Zionist regime there that will completely join up like Argentina and these other places with the sort of modern Zionist global order against, multipolarity that's sort of emerging right now. So we discussed the realities there, everything that's going to happen, get behind the paywall. Really, really great discussion. So it's a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, people are discussing the China-Taiwan stuff. Might have to get into that a little bit before we finish up here. But heading back over to the anti-war article here, where again, this is, as we predicted, I did basically predict that we would see strikes on Venezuela before the end of the year. And this is from Dave DeCamp. President Trump has claimed that the U.S. had knocked out a big facility as part of the U.S. campaign targeting alleged drug boats in Latin America and against Venezuela. CNN later reported on Monday that the CIA conducted a drone strike on a port facility in Venezuela, which, if true, would mark a major U.S. escalation against the country. So far, the Venezuelan government hasn't confirmed the claims. Trump first made the comments in an interview on WABC radio on Friday when discussing the U.S. operations against alleged drug boats in the region. And we just knocked out, I don't know if you read or you saw, they have a big plant or a big facility where they send where the ships come from 2 nights ago. We knocked that out. So we hit them very hard, he said. The president was asked by a reporter on Monday about the comments on whether the alleged attack was conducted by the U.S. military. Well, it doesn't matter, but there was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs, he said, describing the target as an implementation area that's no longer around. Unnamed U.S. officials speaking to the New York Times claimed that in the WABC interview, Trump was referencing a drug facility in Venezuela that they said was eliminated. Forces speaking to CNN said the facility was allegedly used by the gang Tren de Aragua, and there were no casualties because no one was present at the time of the attack. Trump claimed the attack occurred on December 24th, the same day that there was an explosion at a warehouse in Venezuela's northwestern state of Zulia. The company that owns the warehouse, Primazol, which specializes in chemical supplies for livestock and other purposes, said in a statement that it rejected unspecified allegations about the incident that were circulating on social media, though it's unclear if it was referencing claims that the blast may have been caused by a U.S. attack. A major part of the U.S. aggression against Venezuela has been a psychological campaign aimed at scaring Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, involving leaks to the media about U.S. plans to bomb the country. Back in October, Trump said that he authorized covert CIA activity inside Venezuela, and the U.S. spy agency had previously conducted cyber attacks in the country during his first administration. Any U.S. attack on Venezuela would be illegal under the Constitution, which requires congressional authorization to war, yada, yada, yada. The U.S. has been enforcing a naval blockade on Venezuela, which so far has involved the seizure of 2 tankers, a step that's traditionally considered an act of war, has been strongly denounced by UN experts as illegal aggression. So, the strikes have occurred. Apparently, the CIA is mad at Trump for publicizing this because they prefer to operate in the shadows, I guess. But again, this is just, they're slow walking the escalation as much as they can. They're seizing tankers. They're bombing little poopy boats. They are blockading. They are claiming to try to be enforcing an a no-fly zone, which doesn't seem to be particularly successful. And now they have, in the most covert way possible, through the CIA, announcing it days later with no casualties, have effectively attacked Venezuelan soil. So we have crossed that line in the most unflashy, undramatic way possible. So that's clearly the way that Trump is trying to play this. He's trying to facilitate a stepping down of power by Maduro, some kind of more peaceful solution. I think he's aware that public opinion is not in favor of some big operation down there, and I think he's realizing a lot of people are sick of all of this, especially with the ongoing escalations in the Middle East that we are obviously going to be responsible for. And of course, as this is happening in the past 2 days, we've seen the huge drills from China. What were the Chinese drills called? Yeah, the Justice Mission 2025, which are much larger than the recent huge ones we saw earlier this year, Joint Sword A and Joint Sword B. Apparently, the intent of the exercises is the use of blockade and shielding Taiwan from the United States. Here, I can maybe show this Telegram window in a second. But they've released all these big posters clearly showing Chinese ships surrounding Taiwan, even attacks on Taiwan. We've seen major escalations from Chinese nationalist netizens and people trying to, gin up mainland support for reunification with Taiwan. There are people on Taiwan that support reunification that are, coming to the fore. So all of this is very much in flux. There were some videos. This is what it says here on one of the People's Liberation Army Navy vessels in a propaganda video showing the new Chinese exercises. There's a picture of Taiwan with the text, "Complete unification of the motherland. It must be achieved, and it will be achieved." And this comes just days, and again, we discussed this in the World War Now episode this week, after Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, confirmed that if there is intervention, if the US or other forces like Japan or other NATO-aligned groups attempt to fight or support Taiwanese separatists against the PRC's attempt at full reunification of the Chinese motherland, as they call it, that Russia will be involved in that. The Russian Siberian Navy, the Russian Navy out there in Vladivostok and other places will be getting involved in helping China reunify with Taiwan. And I don't know if, potentially that goes on. Russia helps them, and China then dramatically escalates their assistance for Russia in Ukraine, which up until now, I think, outside of drone supplies and other tangential military parts, China has been, trying very much to not be like North Korea is, for example, an overt participant in the war in Ukraine, whereas North Korea have sent troops and participated fully in the special military operation, at least in reclaiming previous Russian territory. I don't know how many North Korean soldiers have been deployed into former pre-2022 Ukraine, but who knows, right? That's something we won't figure out for, maybe we'll never know, right? But, the Venezuela thing, it's one of those things that it's the easiest one that could, if Maduro steps down, which he is far more likely to do than the Ayatollah or Putin or even Zelensky or any of these people, it has the easiest way to resolve itself in some ways. But again, Maduro, he's rallied more support around him than you might suspect. Almost all the people in his cabinet, most of his military people have not chosen to defect, despite them having extremely powerful financial, political interests to do so. So that, combined with the new national security doctrine from the U.S., as well as Israel's insistence that Maduro go, I do believe the Venezuela stuff is legitimate. But if anyone has any super chats about China, about all this stuff, everything going on in World War III right now, it's been a huge year. Like I said, we've gotten, in my opinion, 2025, it gave us part one of Israel versus Iran, and 2026 is going to give us part two. 2025 gave us the biggest Chinese reunification drills off of Taiwan that we've ever seen, preceding potentially a 2026. I believe a lot of the dates have said 2027 is when they really think China is going to make a move on Taiwan. So 2026 could be the full gambit when it comes to Israel and Iran. 2027 could be China, Taiwan. And then maybe 2028, the next American election cycle, that's really when everything goes off as far as the prophecies with Russia, Turkey, Syria, all this stuff is concerned. So stay vigilant. We have Silver Sight. Has China been mentioned in any Orthodox prophecies by saints or elders in relation to the future world war? It definitely has. I believe Saint Seraphim, which Saint Seraphim was it? Solovetsky, I believe, or Solovetsky, one of the Saint Seraphims in the mid 20th century who lived through communist persecution. He said that if Russia reverts to communism and doesn't embrace, orthodoxy and embrace a new czar, that China will seize Siberia. There's a lot of prophecies about, China ultimately, seizing a lot of power, but it being very bad because China is this sort of technocratic, eugenic sort of experiment sciencey weird state, surveillance vaccine state, as it were. But at the same time, there are prophecies about Japan sending hundreds of millions of troops over Central Asia to fight in the Middle East and the Levant. So I think China, Japan, perhaps involved with Russia again, there will be another conflict and a war. If you read Eschatological Visions of the Blessed, there's even more discussions of China. I haven't read the entire book, but everyone should obviously have their copy from Jonathan, for a good buddy from Eschaton Vigil, who we should be having on the show probably sometime in January to fully discuss the new book. But yeah, China is very much mentioned in prophecies. Rarely is it the good guy, but there are Chinese Orthodox saints, of course, Saint Mitrofan Yang, the saints of the Boxer Rebellion. So be sure to ask for their intercessions as we go into the future. But yeah, 2025, 2026, again, Happy New Year to everybody. This is the last stream of the year, of course. And I think, again, it's been a massive year for World War III. We saw World War II, India, Pakistan, which I covered live on the show, which saw, very high death toll, some of the most modern aerial dogfights we'd ever witnessed in modern warfare, much more interesting aerial conflict in those 2 days than we've really seen much in Ukraine over several years at this point. We, of course, had the Afghanistan-Pakistan conflict, which is still sort of semi-ongoing. We have the Cambodia-Thailand war, which just supposedly had a ceasefire that has technically already been broken several times. So by the time World War Now drops this week, where we discuss that ceasefire plan, it may already be shattered in the ground once again, just like the Trump brokered ceasefire plan between Thailand and Cambodia a few weeks ago, which also completely failed. Obviously, the Venezuela situation has only escalated. We have Syria continuing to be a hotbed. Israel is advancing in southern Syria. The SDF has refused to integrate with the Damascus government. Turkey has poured more and more troops into northern Syria. And now reports today have said that Alawite former Bashar al-Assad government officials are meeting with Israel and Israeli officials in Israel to demand Israeli support, much like Israel is supporting the Druze separatists in the south. The Alawites and these former Assadist leaders want Israel to support an Alawite state, an Alawite Christian state on the coast to help sort of balkanize Syria. And obviously the Israelis want to neuter any Islamic regime that might turn against Israel in the long run, with Turkey and Qatar, again, being the main beneficiaries of HTS at this point. Again, I think Israel, I don't know if Israel had a backup plan for al-Jilani not coming to power. They still wanted Assad gone, but I think they had hoped that somebody more aligned with other parties, not Qatar and Turkey specifically, had perhaps come to power. Again, the whole Qatar-Israel thing is complicated. Qatar supports Hamas, but we know that Israel also supported Hamas's rise to power in Gaza. Qatar is largely anti-Israel, but yet they host the largest CENTCOM base, the center base for CENTCOM. Israel bombed Qatar, but ultimately Qatar didn't do anything in response, despite the fact that they're supposedly the number one supporters of Palestinian resistance. So at some point, we're going to have an expert on to really discuss and analyze the Qatar-Israel situation, and probably bring in Turkey, UAE, and these other countries that are relevant in the region, and how they actually operate, who's really behind them, what financial interests keep their economies going, and how these very powerful emirs and kings are able to exist in this very complex geopolitical universe. Yes, people are already asking about a Rasputin episode. Should be coming soon. We've already seen our good friend Alex go on Anthony Westgate and recently on James Delingpole to talk about Rasputin. He is bringing me some books that he has had published for me that I'm going to read. Alex and I were buddies, so hopefully Alex is going to come on the show and we're going to have a big Rasputin discussion. Maybe expect that February. So don't quote me on that, everybody, but you can expect a potential Rasputin episode in February. So there's some good news there. But not seeing any other super chats, not as heavy of a super chat evening. It's no worries. People spent all their money on Christmas presents. Bit of breaking news here. It says new record. Taiwan detects 207 Chinese military aircraft on day 1+2 of exercise justice mission 2025, the largest 2-day total on the books. 125 sorties crossed the median line and entered Taiwan's ADIZ, in line with the peak of 127 incursions during Joint Sword of 2024B. So, again, the Republic of China, the Taiwanese military was totally deployed in the midst of this, and it says, Aisio says, what was that Twitter account, Rasputin Truth? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. My friend Alex, he has already done 2 podcasts this past 2 weeks about Rasputin with Anthony Westgate and James Delingpole. And no offense to those guys, too. I'm great friends with both of those guys, but I think the World War Now one, when we get around to it, is going to be the best. It's going to be the cream of the crop of that discussion. So, because Dmitry, the only person that might know more about Rasputin than Alex is Dmitry. So I've also been talking with some Rasputin experts back in Russia that I met with a few years ago. So the Rasputin content is coming. Do not worry. I promise. But yeah, anybody have any reflections on 2025? Any big things I'm totally forgetting? By 2025, obviously Trump got inaugurated. Charlie Kirk's assassination was obviously massive. Very big year when it comes to those sorts of things. I already discussed the 12-day war. The Gaza ceasefire was finally achieved after 2+ years of the genocide going on. Something akin to peace now reigns in Gaza, despite Israel in the area, 40-50% of the strip they still control. They demolished buildings. They've still killed about 500 civilians plus since the ceasefire went into place. So I use the term ceasefire very loosely. If you want to hear our perspective on that, tune into our stream with Eva Bartlett, our episode there. I'll find that here. Yeah, here. Share this tab. Be sure to check out this episode. Really, really good stuff with Eva. She lived in Gaza for a very long time. She lived in the West Bank. She lived in Syria during the Civil War. She lived in Donbass before 2022. She really knows her stuff. I met her in person in Moscow. Very, very lovely person. Delightful to spend time with. Phineas Deasy. He says, I was baptized. That was a pretty big deal for me. Well, many years. Welcome home, brother. This is what we like to hear. This is really what it's all about. World War now. I talk about politics. We talk about the prophecies and everything, but that's also that the type of autismos that like to listen to me talk and listen about this stuff, that they are drawn to the truth of Holy Orthodoxy and can do exactly what Phineas here did and get baptized into the Holy Orthodox Church. So God bless you, brother. Pray for me. The prayers of the newly illumined are, of course, favored in the heavenly realms. So be sure to say a prayer for your boy. Say a prayer for me, Dimitri, everybody that has been on my show. You know, if you come on World War Now, I hope that we can say that the World War Now patriots are praying for everybody, and that includes the monastics and clergy of hope that are listening. I ask all of you for the prayers and blessings that you can bestow upon us. So congratulations, Phineas. That's what we like to hear. I've heard more and more people in the World War Now audience finally getting received into the, we have a lot of Orthodox people that are already Orthodox, but a lot of inquirers, catechumens, people interested that, maybe the show helped expose them to Orthodoxy. And I'm hearing more and more people saying this helped me become and join the church. So that's really, it's the most humbling thing I can imagine. That's why, that more than anything motivates me to keep doing this. The subscribers can go up and down and this, that, or the other, but if people are actually benefiting from it, joining the church, benefiting spiritually, then that's what it's all about. Porphyry says, how's your experience being a full-timer? Started this year. Impressive hard work doing the real journoism. Yeah, it's been a little bit stressful in the sense that, all my paycheck is now almost entirely through Substack and through these donations and these things that you guys give me. So it's obviously I make less money than I did when I was doing the show and working my old job where I had insurance benefits and a regular paycheck and all this other stuff. But it's been good. Obviously, I'm able to do more shows. I'm still kind of getting the hang of a regular work schedule that I'm in total control of. And I think this next year, I'm going to make a real point to, obviously on top of the live stream, Ether Hour, and World War Now episodes every week. At the very least, I might lean into a once or twice a month article, as well as definitely more Discord and Twitter spaces to get the publicity out there. So I need to just finally sit down and plan at a time when I'm not usually recording with Dimitri, a time to do a Twitter space, do time in the Discord. So again, if you're watching this, please join the World War Now Discord server. It's linked down below. I'm going to be doing more and more voice chats in there with the free subscribers, voice chats in there with the paid subscribers, because we have paid voice channels in there. If you are behind the paywall, you can talk with me in the voice channel just for paid people. Going to probably do more of the paid live streams as well, where we do like an hour live here on YouTube, then switch over to Substack live only for paid subscribers, because there's a feature there where we can go live for just the paid subs. So we did that with the Gabriel DeRochen stream and a few others. So, and I think people liked that. So we're going to be doing some more of those. But yeah, want to see more people in the Discord recently. More European Orthodox Americans and such. We've got a lot of Africans in the Discord, and we love our Africans, but it's not an African Discord channel. So let's get some more people in there. I'm going to try to be more active. Dimitri, check out the Discord. Dimitri and future guest who we were just discussing, Rasputin Archive, had a very fantastic discussion. If you check out the history channel on the World War Now Discord server about who is the successor to the Romanov Empire, and if there is a legitimate claimant, based on recent comments made by Karl Amick, who we've obviously talked about a lot on the show. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Massive super chat again from Alan. Thanks so much, brother. Not seeing any more. You know, we're missing some of our major donors, some of our major super chatters. So it's too bad that some colorful characters aren't here tonight. But everybody that's here, it's great to see you. Paisios is back. It's always good to see him in the chat. Haven't seen him in the last ones. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. And I think it's probably time to play some ethno guesser. It's already been 56 minutes of me yapping. I'm just trying to think of things in 2025 that happened that already went down. I think we got a big boost in the viewership in the stream when Jay still live? Because Jay was live, and now we have a lot more people watching right now. And I think it might have been because Jay stopped being live, or yeah, that's totally what happened. 3 minutes ago, or probably more than that, the stream, petered down and turned off. We're also competing with Father Peter, so it's always tough on these evenings to try to. Oh, Paisios, send me a message, brother. You got to make your own. You got to make your own Substack so that. I mean, I could give it to Travis, but if you make your own Substack, I can give you the free one, brother. Just let me know. $5, Beauty of the Struggle, to help color up the steam. I'm assuming you meant stream, but thank you, Cyprian. It's great to hear from you, brother. You're in my prayers. I hope I'm in yours, and I hope everything is going well in the Orthodox belt of America, which I need to do. I really need to make a trip up there. I haven't done much. Not doxing Cyprian here. This is a different discussion, but I need to make it to Pennsylvania. I need to make it to technically the most orthodox part of America. So yeah, Paisios, do that. That'll be easy money, no worries there. But if you stop being a novice, then you got to pay again. That's also the rule. So stick to it. That'll another motivation to stick to the monastic life. So everyone pray for Paisios as he pursues the monastic calling. I know it's a big deal, the angelic path. I know it's something much more difficult than anything I could, at least in this current stage of life, ever see myself engaging in. So prayers for Paisios. I hope he is praying for us as well. I know he is. So great to hear from him. But it's time to lock in on some racist GeoGuessr, as they call it. So are these like subcontinentals, or are these like Australasians, Southeast Asians? Oh, we got some Phineas Deasy. You need to visit us here in Arizona. I do. I need to make it out to St. Anthony's. I need to make it. My plan, because I live in Texas, so I've been planning on doing a road trip where I stop at Holy Archangels, my beloved monastery here. Then I drive out to Archangel Michael. Should I be saying all this with these brown people on screen? Drive out to Archangel Michael Monastery in New Mexico, OCA. Then drive to St. Paisius, Rocor Monastery in Southern Arizona, the women's monastery, has a close relationship with St. Anthony's. Then I will drive all the way to St. Anthony's and see what's good there. That's a good little road trip. That's not too difficult to do from Austin. I might even be doing that sometime in January too. So Arizona Patriots, lock in. I might be in your hood soon. $50 from Jonathan Kelly. Wigga, I am at work. Look, man, I didn't want to call you out by name. I just said colorful characters, but he knew I was talking about him, and he came in clutch with the $50. Thank you, Jonathan. Always good to hear from you, man. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. I'm that Wigga, man. I'm that Wigga that needs I need the donations. I need to get bagged out by my shooters here, the real world worn out Patriots, like Jonathan, like Porphyry, like everybody. Yarn Chicken ETM 2025 has gone by fast. Our small parish has grown quite a bit this year. Glory to God. My orthodoxy continued to grow in 2026. Glory to God. Amen. My parish has grown exponentially. Every single parish in my city has grown exponentially. So it's really great to witness and see. And yeah, it's good to have Yarn Chicken in chat. Her son is the ethno guesser wizard. Should probably pull that back up. But thank you for the big super chats, everybody. We've got the stream back up to normal super chat levels. The shekels have flown in, and now we can give the people what they want. Yeah, I wasn't capable of playing the ethno guesser until I got that $50 from Jonathan. But now we're really able to lock in. That being said, I'm going to need some help on this one because the nose is sort of throwing me off. What is we've got a wide array of people tonight. We've got Asians, women, white people, Wiggas, So all sorts of different characters. What's everyone? Do I have to? I'm eventually. Do I have to pay for ethnoguesser with no ads in the future? Maybe that'll be something. If that's an option, maybe that's what I'll. Someone can donate for that, and I will get ethnoguesser without ads if that's even an option. But yeah, Canadian. Well, that's if this was 2025, 2026 ethnoguesser, that would be correct. But we're ostensibly going with where these people are supposed to be. So, if they were in Canada, where would we deport these people to? That's the question. So, someone says St. Michael's in New Mexico is great. Highly recommend. Yeah, I think I might be heading out there at some point. Yeah, Paisios, let me know. Shoot me a message. Don't wanna dox us all too much here. But I'm not seeing any help on these random guesses. Yeah, Porphyry, where should we deport them? Yeah, that's that's if you click America and it's a neighborhood of like Indians or something, the correct answer isn't that neighborhood. It's still there. You still have to identify their original village back in India where we have to send them to. But seriously though, guys, I need help on this one. These Papuans, I need to get the blood flowing. These could be Papuans or these like Aboriginals or these like Bougainvilleans or something like that. I'm gonna go around here unless somebody has an alternative theory to the Papua, former German/Dutch southeast here. Where's Bougainville? I want to put them on Bougainville. Is this Bougainville? Oh, is this Bougainville? Yeah, I think that. Wait, no, that might be New Caledonia. But yeah. Boom. Wait. 1708. Man, if I had just put it on New Caledonia, I would have. That should be a dub, bro. Come on. You're telling me they're all these places, but not. I think this is Bougainville, and they're technically their own thing. So I screwed myself over by knowing what Bougainville was. I could have. This is a scam. This is nonsense. This is totally a 5,000. This is totally a 5K, but we do what we do. All right. These are some continental Africans. And I'm almost inclined to go like freaking middle of Africa. Well, I mean, if I was literally just completely objective and hadn't played this game before, I'd be going West Africa. But that has done me dirty in the past. Everything seems to be freaking Sudan or Northern Congo. So, yeah, Conrad chose the one tax haven island they aren't in. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was I literally, if I clicked any other island, I would have gotten it. So, overthought that one. But does anyone have any thought on these melanated individuals? Because I mean, they look pretty standard to me, man. These look like default characters. Person did not spend a lot of time in the character customization menu. So yeah, I've got Porphyry saying car. I'm thinking I'm gonna go car or maybe between the Cameroon-Nigerian border. That sort of sounds accurate. Cameroon-Nigerian border. I'm thinking maybe here, like you said, in this area. I shouldn't have, I should encourage the Black Discord homies to join these streams to help me with the African part of ethnoguesser. But that's how they're not real patriots. They're not on the streams. They're not on the chat. They're just in the Discord shitting it up. So where are our African bros at? I'm not seeing them in chat helping me with this. But all right, I'm locking in. I'm going to go the Cameroon car border here. Dang it. I knew it was west. Casamance. I got a little higher than the average here, but yeah, Togo, Ghana. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I'll tell the African bros in Discord to show up. Yeah, tell them to show up and not be in Discord as much. That's my perspective. All right, round 3. Oh my gosh. I mean, like, I could obviously make a joke about how it's the same people as before, but this is ethno guessers, so we can't be making those jokes. We need to be getting these fine distinctions. This is good. This is good. This will remember the previous face, and now remember these, and see how. Like, I mean, I'm almost tempted to guess in a slightly similar place, but for some reason these look farther south to me. I'm really thinking maybe Botswana, Eswatini, Zambia, even South Africa. What does everybody else think here? Definitely think farther south, maybe even east. The people saying stuff in the chat. But I don't think these are just more I mean, I don't know if these are just more Nigerians, man. I mean, it could be, but like, would they really do that to us just back to back like that? I'm tempted to go like Zambia or South Africa, maybe, or these could even be like Sudan or something over there as well, like Uganda. Actually, I think I'm gonna go Uganda. I think maybe like here. If anybody thinks that's wrong, let me know. Are these like Hutus or Tutsis? Congo? Just straight up Congo? Maybe we hedge there. Could be the play. All right. I'm hedging Congo here in 10 seconds unless someone hits a real committed guess in the chat. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lock it in. They did it to us. They did it to us. Just the same. Bobo. Bobo. We got boboed this round, guys. Sudanid variety with shorter skulls than Sudanids proper has several other unique features that set it apart from other neighboring groups. They really did it to us, guys. Alan was right. We should have just guessed the same spot. Ibrahim, this guy, I mean, I guess this guy would be kind of looking like Ibrahim Traore. And I believe that is the area of Burkina Faso that the Traore junta does control. So I should have known based on geopolitical autism. Can we get some white people or some Asians, man? What am I even looking at? These are not real, dog. These are extinct subvarieties, bro. These are is this the extinct Tasmanian subvariety? It was. Clip it, bro. Clip it. Oh, that's a good one. That's a redemption clip for the other good ethno when I get up and go off the screen for the Afghanistan. This clip it. But yeah, I know my extinct Tasmanian Aboriginal insular, slightly grackalized Australid subtype of Tasmania, similar to Baranean, sometimes also associated with Melanesian or Negritid, most likely developed due to isolation after Tasmania split off Australia. Extinct today. The last full-blooded male/female died in 1869/1876. European colonists had wiped out the type within a few decades by war, displacement, and most importantly, introduced diseases. However, a few descendants of mixed ancestry remain. Well, I got him. Clocked him. That was a blessed by the Bobo. Bobo. What is this stream, man? You can't say this isn't a unique show. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. 613. Bobo. That is how many points I got. My lowest score this round, but I made up for it with this one. Ah, yes. Prayer answered. These are Central Asians. But this is where they get you. In my opinion, Central Asia is where the true racists are made. My opinion. Because that's where all the empires and civilizations really, really crossed, the set Silk Road type stuff. So this is where heroes are made in this game, in my opinion. So we got one strong guess for Kyrgyz, which is a strong guess. The guy on the left is giving a little bit of Kazakh energy, but I see what you all mean. East Bulgaria, bro. I mean, we're racist here, but like, I didn't realize we were like. You think Bulgarians look like this? Damn. I mean, some do probably, but I consider them white in some sense. But okay, Alan on the board. Bulgarians not white. Okay, didn't think we were gonna get that strong opinion here. Uzbek. All right. Do we want to like split the difference here? I'm not seeing any strong conviction. I'm not seeing high conviction among the audience here. Let's check Substack chat just to see if I'm missing anybody. I'm not seeing anything. Although the chat does spam the heart in the Substack chat if you're there, because I'm looking at it right now. So hit that heart button, and so I know that you're tuning in. Substack Patriots. Yeah, there we go. I'm seeing it. We've got Substack Patriots in control. But yeah, that Angloids have such cringe opinions. Well, I'm an Angloid, so what's it to you? But Angloids. Well, Porphyry that's Alan's Chinese, so I don't know if you consider Chinese Anglo. That's another interesting racial, spiritual racialism that I'm interested in hearing. But I'm going to split this Uzbek Kyrgyz thing if nobody else hits me with some high conviction meme here. So I'm going to give it another 10 seconds. I'm not counting it down. This is going to be an internal 10-second countdown for anybody that want to walk in here. Have some water. The perfidious Sino, yes. Conrad is our Aryan Kang. Yes, we was Kangs. Us Anglo bog dwellers. We was Romans and shit. All right. Bam. Whoop. Sorry, that was so cringe. Don't clip that. I will never dab on stream again. I'm so sorry. But we got a big 5K and we're locked in. I guess more into, yeah, man. The Chinese nation really stretches all the way to Iran if you think about it. At the end of the day, I guess. Would I have gotten 5K though if I got here? Maybe. I guess yes, look at the big triangle in Hungary. Hungarians confirmed Asian. But what do you guys think? Alan, what do you think? Is pan China? Should China just take all of this? Should China take Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Kyrgyzstan? What do you think? How would those people feel about being Sinicized? Much to think about, right? But these are plains Pamirids, the most widespread Pamirid variety, typical for the steppes and lowlands from Uzbekistan to Xinjiang and the Fergana Valley. Somewhat influenced by Aralids formed by contact with Turanids and Tungid-influenced groups, and became widely dispersed by nomads, most common in Uzbeks and Uyghurs. So these are Uyghurs and Uzbeks. Sometimes Tajiks, Kazakhs, Afghans. It doesn't say anything about Kyrgyz, but the entire nation of Kyrgyzstan is included in this red zone, so they must have just forgot that in the description. Not a fan of Sinicization, TBH. Everyone will be myopic, neurotic, static chasers. I think a lot of people in Central Asia are myopic, neurotic, and just not status chasers, though. So I don't know. Although everyone does say the people in Kyrgyzstan are delightfully kind and hospitable. So I have always wanted to do the mountain ride the horses thing on Kyrgyzstan. So maybe I'll crowdfund a World War Now trip to Kyrgyzstan and go trespass on the Chinese border and get arrested or something. But next round. And we're back. All right. These are East Africans. And I'm going to select here. All right. Yeah, I just had to lock in on that. Those were Those were clear Nilotes, obvious Nilotes, minimal Bantu admixture, despite being Vanta black. So we locked in. East African. Sorry, bud. Sorry, bud. Better luck next time. But yeah, these are Nilotes. And that's why we play the game, everybody. Let's get non-Africa. And we're back in Africa. These have to be in the South. These are definitely South Africans. Let's just do it. Dang it. I should have gone farther north. But I knew they were South Africans. Chopi Tswana. Bantuid varieties, overall similar to Central Bantuids, but with weak Khoisan influence. Yeah, that's why they look lighter skinned, because they are Bantu that mixed with the Khoisan people. When Bantu assimilated some older Khoisanid elements found especially in Botswana and South Mozambique, with lower frequencies in Zimbabwe, South Africa, and adjacent countries. Typified by the Chopi and Tswana, blah, blah, blah. All right. I could have got the 5K almost, but that was a good guess, in my opinion. Oh. It's always these people, man. I feel like I had these people last time. Where was this last time? Alan, you were on stream. Alan and Jonathan, you guys were on stream last time. Where was this guy? I've seen this man before in this game. Where was he from? Was he North African? Were these the North Africans? Oh, you just saw my terrible hair. North Africans, Iran, Pakistan. I don't know about that. I think North African. Morocco seems good, but were these the Libyans from the last time? I think these were the Libyans. Yep. We remember. Someone said, Conrad, you just skimmed the Ortho Christian article. Is the college you went to closed? Yes, the college I went to is closed. It was a conservative Christian school. It was a very good school, actually, but they ran out of money and don't exist anymore. So, yes. But yeah, we're locked in here. Unfortunately, many people from the King's College, at least 4 graduates that I know, and it was a very small school that I knew they're converted to Orthodoxy. So a lot of Orthodox converts and people there. All right. 9 out of 10. Oh boy. What are we looking at here? I feel like I'm looking at like this, like, the real, where the stuff goes down, where we talk about stuff on the show. What's everybody thinking? Yeah, man, if you lived in New York and King's was open, I'd have told you it's not a bad place to be. Kind of weird, but yeah. Unfortunately, I have no idea where to recommend people go to school in NYC anymore, because I don't want to recommend you go to Fordham just because of the stupid Orthodox Christian Studies Center with Aristotle poo poo pee pee and George lick my balls-aless. But North Egypt, that's what you think, Porphyry? I don't know, man. These people look a little Caucasian. Like Turk. Yeah, the guy's giving me major Turk vibes, and the woman's giving me like Lebanese, Syrian vibes. So maybe like some just go to OG King's College in NYC. Well, the OG King's College is in England, I'm pretty sure. So are these Kurds? Could these be? I don't think they're Kurds. Yeah, I'm kind of getting like Armenia vibes here. I'm gonna go like kind of in Turkish, Armenian, Iranian border, unless somebody else is high conviction otherwise. I'm gonna go here. Yup. Iranid, distinctive type of the Iranian plateau, one of the main elements in Persians, specifically southwestern Iran, an important element in Kurds, Talish, Gilox, and Luris, extends to Afghanistan and India, where it can be found in West Cheeks. Boom. Finishing great here. Okay. Yellow men in chat, where are we? What are we looking at here? Are these like some of this, or are these like, wow? You know, they're somewhere here. Snow Asians, yes, but did they cross the land bridge? That's the question. I'm thinking this could be Alaskans, but are these like island Alaskans or like mainland Alaskans or like Yukon type characters? Yes. Boom. Very high on the average. There's not too many people above me. Top 5% of today's players. That's good. That's good. Yeah, let's zoom in. What are these ones on? Athabascids, Northern Pacific variety, heavily influenced by Cybrid and Esquimid admixture. Yeah, not as much on the islands, but it looks like some on Kodiak, so there's definitely some Orthodox Athabascids for sure. But yeah, not seeing any more super chats. Thank you to Jonathan, Porphyry, Yarn Chicken, Phineas, Beauty of the Struggle, Silver Sight, and E-War Mapping for the super chat so far. If anybody else has any questions, $10. Saint Herman, pray for Alaska and us. So true, brother. What a wonderful saint. What a wonderful place. I've never been to Alaska, but now that I'm Orthodox, I used to really want to go to Alaska as a kid, but then I learned it's sort of like a depressing place where a bunch of criminals and like Native Americans that are drinking themselves to death live. So I sort of soured on it. But now that I'm Orthodox, I want to make it back and see all this stuff and go to Kodiak and Unalaska and all this stuff. $49.99, massive super chat from Jonathan Kelly. $49.99. I'd send more, but no Christmas bonus, brother. If you didn't get the Christmas bonus, you shouldn't have sent. There was no expectation for you to freaking bag me out so big, but bam, $100 tonight from Jonathan Kelly. Massive addition to the World War Now war chest. So thank you so much, brother. If you're ever in the Austin area, please hit me up, and I will take you to get some dinner, and we will have a great time because you've been the foremost of World War Now patriots. He's the George Soros. He's the Jacob Schiff of World War Now. He's the one really bankrolling this whole operation, you know, making sure his will behind the scenes is really done. Yeah, people saying the mosquitoes in Alaska. Yarn Chicken saying the kids loved Alaska. So Alaska will have to be in the next 2-3 years. You know, maybe what if they reopen flight? What if they had like Anchorage to Vladivostok flights? You know, that would be something to go to the Russian Far East, but from Alaska instead of having to go all the way through Europe and all that other stuff. That would be quite wonderful. Going to read some breaking news updates here before we land this plane, already an hour, 25 minutes or so into this one. But we have, in his interview with Fox News, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu asserts that in order to proceed with Trump's peace plan for Gaza, Hamas must give up all 60,000 rifles in its possession, as well as its underground tunnels, which, does that mean Israel's going back into the zone they've pulled out of already? Sorry, reading the chat. And this is big. Obviously, the other big news that I didn't discuss too much, we discuss it a lot in the upcoming World War episode with me and Dimitri. Oh, I gotta share that other piece too. It says here, this is Ahmed Saeed bin Barak, the vice president of the Southern Transition Council, which for those that don't know, you know, let's pull up the live UA map here and go to Yemen while I discuss this. Why not, right? No, we don't need to look at Ukraine. We already be knowing about Ukraine. Yemen. Share this tab instead. Ignore any pornographic ads. It's not targeted. This website just sucks and is pro-Ukrainian, so they put goon stuff on here sometimes. Okay. The big news was that the Saudis struck a port and a ship in, what's it called again? Forgetting the name of the town. Yes, here. Mukalla. Mukalla in southern Yemen, which was the main port, I guess, that the UAE has been using to supply the separatist Southern Transition Council with weapons. For those who don't understand the situation in Yemen, it's fairly simple. Hold on, where's the... Yeah, there's the key. Okay, so Ansar Allah, the Houthis, control the vast majority of the population of Yemen, which is the red. That's where Sana'a and Hodeidah, the major population centers of Yemen, are. That's where the majority of Yemeni people live. In the south, we have the Arab coalition, which consisted of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egyptian forces, but this is largely now the yellow is Southern Transition Council, which is headquartered here in Aden, and the red is Saudi Arabia, which have now completely, basically abandoned each other. Here in the blue, we have the Saudi coalition. That's what they control. And obviously the Houthis control the red. And this part, the part that the UAE controls, they want to, as was just said by the vice president of the STC, which controls this, they want to separate and form a state of Southern Arabia, this new country that would allow the UAE to control all of the resources here. The Saudi Arabians are completely against that. They are willing to even work with the Houthis to have all of Yemen be a unified country that works with Saudi Arabia. So we're seeing the biggest rift in Saudi and UAE relations, I think, in our lifetime. So this is a very big deal. The Saudis did an airstrike on a UAE ship here, but they'd already unloaded most of the trucks, so it wasn't as effective of a strike. The Saudi war cabinet has been meeting every day for the past few days now. So this is quite the escalation. So that's sort of the latest news we've got. Yeah, the live UAE map. The live UAE map is obviously pro-Ukraine. So when you go check it, don't expect it to be giving the most accurate recent updates, especially if it's still somewhat unconfirmed news about Russian victories. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm not seeing any other super chats. So if anybody has any final questions, send those in here in the next 2 minutes, and I will be sure to read them and ask them. But obviously, I'm checking the chat here. We've got Paisios, Georgi, a few other people in chat. Thank you to everybody for tuning in on Substack. It's really great having people on there. More and more people are tuning in. I really hope they can fix things to where, hope they can fix things to where it can integrate with the chat in the streaming software. I don't know why that's still not a thing yet. That would be a much more lively chat with everybody across all of, yeah, I got to use an ad blocker on UA maps, but people need to integrate this. The chat would be amazing with all 3 platforms going on here. Didn't see anybody in Twitter chat, even though I knew some people were watching on there. So again, no more super chats, it seems here. Everybody, please be sure to subscribe on Substack right here. You can see the live stream on Substack, or you can tune in. We've got almost 60 people watching on there. Obviously, you get access to all of our other incredible content. And for people that are only on the app and you are behind the paywall and you want to like scroll more easily, all the other stuff, you can click this Ether Hour tab here at worldwarnow.co on browser, and you get access to every single Ether Hour right here in order, going all the way back years and years and years at this point to some of our most incredible episodes. And I really want to encourage people, if you haven't gone back, listen to these old episodes. It's really, really critical stuff. We have a great conversation here with Vince James. Really great episode. Incredible conversations with Andre Afanasiev, Orthodox Luigi from Twitter. These amazing episodes. This is part 2 of our episode about John Vatatzis with Gregory. Here's maybe my favorite episode we've ever done, all about the prophecies of St. John Vatatzis. 2 hours of just some of the most incredible history and Orthodox stuff you've ever heard in your entire life. So be sure to, yeah, I really need to get on Brave browser, but bro said I'm going to buy merch. Well, hopefully at the end of January, the merch store will be up. So I hope everybody can get some merch when it's up. I promise you all will be the first to know, especially if you're subscribed at worldwarnow.co. So again, do that right here. Get behind the paywall. It really, really helps us out. Obviously, I didn't get any time to react to any Twitter content, but follow me on X, Twitter at GnomeRad. We're posting all sorts of stuff on there. Again, check out my recent article with Ortho Christian, my interview with Mother Cornelia. I'll be posting all sorts of wacky stuff on Twitter, making fun of Yoko Ono, family balderdash games, all sorts of stuff. Maybe we can watch this video actually here to send things off because we're still haven't made it to old calendar Christmas yet. So we're gonna watch this video, gonna sign things off. Be sure to send in any final super chats you may have. But let's watch.
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Christmas is all about.
And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. The glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
I've been muted. As an avid Charlie Brown Christmas watcher, every year my family watches it, you have to notice here, Linus, he always holds his security blanket, and it says, and the angel said unto them, Fear not. And you see before that he's holding the blanket. And if it didn't have this edit going, right here you would see he drops the blanket. And if you go back here, see he's not holding the blanket anymore. Whereas every other time you see Linus, he's always holding the blanket. But he's not holding the blanket because he's not afraid, because the angel told him not to fear. And he's talking about Jesus, who, with Christ, all things are possible, there's no need to fear. All things can be overcome by God. So it's important to see, he's not even the young children understand that, that God loves and protects them. So again, Merry Christmas to everybody, especially those on the old calendar that are still celebrating the original, obviously, date of the incarnation and birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So bro said mid-edit, complete os. You're lucky I don't ban you from chat immediately. Just letting you know, if you ever comment something that Cole again, you will be immediately banned from chat. But thank you again all so much for tuning in. I'm not seeing any more super chats. So again, thank you all for joining us. Happy New Year. I hope everybody had an incredible 2025. It was an eventful year, to say the least, for me. Keep me in your prayers. Some good things happened, very much some bad things happened. Obviously, I'm not going to air it all out on the stream. So thank you all so much for keeping me in your prayers, for tuning in, for supporting the show financially, especially. This could not happen at all without you. So thank you again to eWar Mapping, Silversight, Phineas, Beauty of the Struggle, Yarn Chicken, Porphyry, of course, and Jonathan Kelly. You guys are the ones that really boosted everything tonight on this massive stream. So thank you all so much for tuning in. And with all of that, I will see you on the next one. And again, Merry Christmas. Stay strong in the fast. God bless.